my name is Ronel and this is my report in Science and Technology. Let's talk about the biodiversity and the health society. Decrease in biodiversity is imminent worldwide. Vertebrates fell to 60% from the 1970s due to human causes. It is projected that by 2020, wildlife decline will be 60% of the present number. The Worldwide Fund for Nature and Zoological Society of London reported annual decrease in wildlife by 2%. A major cause is the human population, which was doubled in number since 1960 to 7.4 billion. Humans have industrialized the natural habitat of wildlife as well as marine life. Leaving these creatures with no place to live would eventually cause their death. Marco Lambini, the General Director of Worldwide Fund International, described that the disappearance of wildlife is an unprecedented rate. Earth might enter the sixth mass extinction event, according to the expert. Mass extinction is described as the disappearance of species at a rate of 1,000 faster than usual. Moreover, the disappearance of a species in a certain environment causes an imbalance in the ecosystem, producing more chaotic changes that harm the entire ecosystem. This is a pressing statement from people to know more about the importance of our diverse environment and how human activities can either contribute to its growth or destruction. There is a growing importance of studying how society, environment, and healthcare are interrelated. If human beings fail to recognize the needs of one of those components, the other remaining components can be affected and compromised. Thus, this is timely to know about the acute effects of species being extinct and our ecosystem being imbalanced. Biodiversity and ecosystem. Biodiversity is defined as the wide variety of life forms on the entire Earth. It encompasses all kinds of life forms, or single-cell organisms to the largest multi-cell organism. Its definition is the structural and functional perspective and not as individual species. Another definition of biodiversity is the variability among living organisms from all sources, including terrestrial, marine, and other aquatic ecosystems and the ecological complexes of which they are part. This includes diversity within species, between species, and ecosystem. Biodiversity is the source of the essential goods and ecological services that constitute the source of life for all. It has direct consumptive value in food, agriculture, medicine, and industry. Understanding biodiversity within the ecosystem needs a true study on the relationship of the biotic living organism and the abiotic or non-living organism. An interdisciplinary approach is needed to study the ecosystem. Biodiversity plays a major role in these natural dynamics. For example, a large number of golden snails in a certain area of a rice field can help predict a low production of the eggs of the golden snails. The rice harvest is considered a pest for rice plant. On a positive view, the larger number of different species in a certain area can predict sustainable life in that area. The sustainability of the ecosystem ensures a better survival rate against any natural disaster. Therefore, as human inhabitants of the ecosystem, we must preserve and conserve the biodiversity of all creatures. In simpler terms, indeed, people will always depend on biodiversity on the wholeness of our being and in our everyday life. More so, our health will ultimately depend upon the product and services that we acquire from the ecosystem. Somehow, there are ways and processes in the ecosystem that are not apparent or appreciated by human beings. Think about the need to drink clean and fresh water, eat healthy vegetables and food, or the need for man to transport, which makes him rely on fuel. All of these are human needs that are answered and provided by our ecosystem. Thus, if we fail to keep taking care of the ecosystem, we are putting our life at risk as significant decline in biodiversity has a direct human impact when the ecosystem in its insufficiency can no longer provide it for human beings' physical and social needs. Indirectly, changes in the ecosystem affect livelihood, income, and on occasion may even cause political conflict.
Changes in biodiversity.
Alteration in any system could bring varied effects. A change in biodiversity could have erratic effects on wildlife or marine life and human beings. For example, humans inhabiting the forest would disturb the natural order of life. Trees and plants would be affected in the land clearing operation where the houses would be built. The animals, insects, and all types of life forms in the cleared area would either be displaced or most likely be killed. The loss of this life form could affect the entire ecosystem governing that environment. The food chain might be damaged. We can infer that biodiversity encounters change that may impact human health on such different levels when our ecosystem is not well cared for. Threats to biodiversity. There are major threats to biodiversity identified by the United Nations Environment Program. This is the following. Number 1, habitat loss and destruction. A major contributing factor is the inhabitation of human beings in the use of land for economic gains. Number 2, alteration in ecosystem composition. Alteration and sudden changes either within species group or within the environment could begin to change entire ecosystem. Alteration in ecosystem are critical factor contributing to species and habitat loss. Number 3, overexploitation. Overhunting, overfishing, or overcollecting of species can quickly lead to its decline. Changing consumption patterns of humans is often cited as the key reason for this unsustainable exploitation for natural resources. Number 4, pollution and contamination. Biological ecosystems respond slowly to change in their surroundings environment. Pollution and contamination cause irreversible damage to species and varieties. Number 5, global climate change. Both climate variability and climate change is caused by biodiversity loss. Species and population may be lost permanently if they are not provided enough time to adapt to changing climate conditions. Consequence of biodiversity loss. Even with the improvement of technology and science at present, we still have a lot to learn about biodiversity, more so about the consequences of biodiversity loss. However, the basic concept about biodiversity loss was from Charles Darwin and Alfred Russel Wallace. Intact ecosystem function best since the organism composing them are specialized to function in the ecosystem to capture, transfer, utilize, and ultimately lose energy and nutrients. The particular species making up an ecosystem determine its productivity, affect nutrient cycle and soil contents, and influence environmental conditions such as water cycles, weather patterns, climate, and other non-biotic aspects. The loss of biodiversity has many consequences that we understand and many that we do not. It is apparent that humankind is willing to sustain a great deal of biodiversity loss if there are concomitant benefits to society. We hope they are the net benefit. In many cases, the benefit seems to cure to a few individuals only, with net societal loss. However, it is extremely difficult to estimate the future cost of biodiversity loss or environmental damage. As stated by Tillman, the Earth will retain its most striking feature. It is biodiversity only if humans have the prescience to do so. This will occur, it seems, only if we realize the extent to which we use biodiversity. Nutritional impact of biodiversity. According to the World Health Organization, biodiversity is a vital element of human being nutrition because it influences food production. Biodiversity is a major factor that contributes to sustainable food production for human beings. As a society or a population must have access to a good variety of nutritious food as it determines their health as human beings. Health by biology, and biodiversity. Almost all living organisms are dependent on their environment to live and reproduce. Basic needs of living organisms such as air, water, food, and habitat are provided by their environment. The evolution of human beings was due to improved access to these basic needs. Advances in agriculture, sanitation, water treatment, and hygiene have had a far greater impact on human health than medical knowledge. Environment-related illness. Some human illness that are found to be related to its environment include Parkinson's disease, heart disease, cancer, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, asthma, diabetes, obesity, occupational injuries, dysentery, arthritis, malaria, and depression. And that's all for me. This is Ronel Mir of MBS ID. Good